Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07. It's O'Connor and Company, and I assure you we're going to stay on the air today longer than J.D. Vance got to stay on Blue Sky yesterday. Patrice, they yanked him after 12 minutes. I thought they wanted an open exchange of ideas and freedom of speech.
The left never wants an open exchange of anything other than bodily fluids.
12 minutes?
Is that too early?
Bodily. Has Chris Plant writing your jokes all of a sudden? What is?
I think I heard Chris's voice in my head when I just said that.
You were channeling Plant. Yeah, 12 minutes. 12 minutes. J.D. Vance reaching out to Blue Sky, the liberal version of Twitter, saying, hey, everybody, let's talk about things. 12 minutes. Yanked. Coming up at 7:05, Alex Sawyer, Washington Times. She's got a new book out, Lawless Lawfare. Looking forward to that conversation, and timely is at that. 7:35, John Reed running for lieutenant governor against what can only be described as a Democrat whack job. The Democrats have put together a ticket for Virginia that looks a lot like they're running for California state office. John Reed, your nominee for lieutenant governor at 7:35. 8:05, Sean Spicer. Mr. Sean goes to Washington. What a day he had yesterday testifying on Capitol Hill about the Biden cover-up. And then at 8:35, KT McFarland. And God knows there's a lot going on in foreign policy that we want to pick KT's brain about. If you're looking for an update, wondering if something happened overnight with Iran and Israel. No, not really. Yesterday, the president was asked about it, and he basically said, "Yeah, I think Israel's doing just fine right now. They're good." So whatever American involvement may have been decided, and I do think a decision has been made, it appears as though, Patrice, the president is more than willing to let Israel sort of weaken things even more before any American military is engaged. Keep knocking down their defenses, keep knocking down any type of air presence they might have, and then the time will be right when the time is right. So we're still in wait-and-see mode about what happens over there. I'm Larry O'Connor, and that is Patrice Onwuka, but it's not Friday, so I'm confused.
It's Friday Eve.
Oh, no.
Also known as Thursday.
It's also Juneteenth, and a glorious day off to everybody who is observing Juneteenth today.
I guess
it's not your day off.
Well, I'm here with you, wonderful listeners. Shout out to the guy who saw me at my son's school, dropping him off, and said, "Are you Patrice Onwuka from O'Connor and Company?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Keep up the good work." So I'm here, and I love it. And
we're very good with elementary school kid dads.
Yeah, oh, okay. There you go. He seemed like a good dad. So
demographics, yeah.
I love it. Well, Juneteenth, yes. I mean, it's a federal holiday. At this point, honestly, I would rather see it combined with another, but it is what it is. So
what are you going to do? And a lot of people are taking a long weekend because it's a Thursday, Juneteenth. If you're a federal worker or in the military and you get these days, good. But keep it here. We're going to be here for you.
Absolutely.
And we'll be able to get you up to speed on everything going on, including economic news, where yesterday a lot of people were hoping, and certainly the president was hoping, that Chairman Powell of the Federal Reserve would finally knock those interest rates down a point. Or I think President Trump said it should be down 2.5 points at this point. But we didn't even get half a point, did we?
We didn't. The Federal Reserve Chairman decided to keep the benchmark federal fund rates at the same level, so he did not cut. And by the way, this is now the fourth time this year that the Federal Reserve has met to discuss rate cuts, and they have not done anything. In a note, the committee that guides the central bank's decision, they said unemployment remains low, the labor market conditions are solid, inflation remains somewhat elevated, but we have it's diminished but still remains elevated, and we're attentive to the risks on both sides from the tariffs. So really, at the end of the day, the Federal Reserve is sitting on its hands when it comes to interest rates because it's fearful of what could happen in the future over the tariffs. We have been hearing tariff scare since January, since February, I guess, and Liberation Day in April. And we have yet to see any impacts from the tariffs really widespread materialize. We've seen the inflation rate come down to 2.3% in the month of April, I believe it was. And then in the month of May, it just bumped up slightly to 2.4%. But when you look at some of those underlying inflation rates, some of the different rates on different products and categories, we're seeing deflation. So prices actually getting lower, being cut. I think this is going to be the case of the Federal Reserve once again waiting too long to act. They waited too long when inflation took off under President Biden, and they're waiting too long under President Trump to cut interest rates. So this is what we've got. They do anticipate one or two cuts later this year, but hey, they promised us one or two, maybe 3 or 4 cuts earlier this year, and we have still yet to see them do anything.
Well, that's a good summation from Patrice Onwuka. Now let's hear the dynamic and engaging presence of one Jerome Powell as he, in his scintillating style, describes his decision.
Good afternoon. My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. Despite elevated uncertainty, the economy is in a solid position. The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor market is at or near maximum employment.
Okay, so those last 3 items, the economy in a solid position, unemployment rate low, and labor market at or near maximum employment, those are things that you can demonstrate with data points. You can say, the economy is solid, and here, because of A, B, C, and D. Here are the numbers on the labor market. Here's the number on unemployment. Here's it. But that first thing he said, despite elevated uncertainty. Well, hold on a minute. How do you quantify that? But in other words, we all feel uncertain. And that's a feeling, isn't it? Despite elevated uncertainty, how do you back up that notion that there is elevated uncertainty? Who's uncertain exactly, and what's the data point to support that notion?
Well, at best, they can look at manufacturing, for example, and see, are companies manufacturing more goods? Are they stockpiling more goods? Maybe you look at imports and exports and look at, are companies and Americans importing more goods or fewer goods right now? Those are kind of tangential data points that you can look at. And then you can look at business.
But he didn't cite any of that yesterday.
But he didn't cite any of them. Consumer confidence you can look at. You can look at business index, the National Federation of Small Businesses. Look at how, small businesses are perceiving the future. And even in those different measures that I just listed off, you're seeing positive news where at the beginning of the year, people were fearful, and now they're not. Small businesses are more certain about the future now.
You talk about manufacturing and what the current state of manufacturing is right now in this country, and you've heard nothing but trillions of dollars of new investment in manufacturing outlays here in the United States. You know what would really help all of those companies who have decided to invest in manufacturing in America and reinvigorate the American manufacturing base? Lower interest rates, because they have to finance their equipment. They have to finance their expansion. They have to finance and borrow to build their new factories. It would be great to give them a percentage that if they're uncertain, maybe it's because they're having trouble getting their money lent at a reasonable rate. It's so frustrating. We got a little bit more economic news here, and we'll lay it out for you, and I'll rant a little bit more about it because I'm so confused about it. But first, it's 5:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
All right, so he starts out by saying there's elevated uncertainty, and then he says that the economy is in a solid position, the unemployment rate is low, the labor market is at or near maximum employment, and then what else? I mean, what are the troubles with our economy that makes the interest rates still need to stay high?
Inflation has come down a great deal, but has been running somewhat above our 2% longer run objective. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. We believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments. I'll have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments.
Oh, we can't wait for that. Patrice, I don't quite understand. He said that the inflation rate has come down, which Lord knows it has. We were dealing with 9% inflation back in midsummer of 2022.
Yes.
He said it's slightly above the 2% target. Yeah, I mean, last month it was 2.1%. This month it's sitting at 2.3%, I think. But that's an accounting adjustment, for God's sake, in the grand scheme of things compared to where we were. I really don't understand. Other than, Trump has been complaining about this for a while. He's been saying that the rate should come down. It almost seems like it's just political will. It's almost like he says, well, Trump wants this, so I'm not going to do it.
It may be a little bit of political will, or it may be just that he is so scared of his shadow. He's scared to do anything in advance, or reading the tea leaves of what is happening currently, and then what is likely to happen. Listen, when inflation started taking off in the mid to late summer in 2021, after Joe Biden and Democrats passed that American Rescue Plan, pumping the economy with trillions of dollars, he sat on his hands. He told us, inflation is kicking up a little bit, but this is transitory. I think that was the word of the year in 2021.
Right.
He waited and waited and waited to pump the brakes on the economy because the economy was overstimulated by all the tax dollars from Washington. He waited too long to cool down the economy by raising interest rates. Well, now he didn't learn his lesson then. He's waiting way too long to cut interest rates. And listen, Larry, our listeners are smart. They know that the federal funds interest rate impacts so many of the different ways that you and I are having to, pay credit back, whether it's, a credit card bill, a student loan interest rate, or a car loan. All of these different forms of credit are much more expensive because the interest rates remain high. Even mortgage rates, which is runs on a parallel track to the federal funds rate, but sometimes they're connected. Even that, we want to see mortgage rates come down too. The American household continues to be stretched even as prices come down. We were at 2.8% inflation at the start of this year, Larry. We are now down to 2.4%. We even dipped to 2.3 the month prior. It is time for Jerome Powell to stop sitting on his hands. He's going to be late to the game, and American people will suffer as a result.
As I mentioned, manufacturers who are trying to invest and reinvest in sort of manufacturing things here to give better jobs for Americans here instead of shipping them overseas, part of the Trump economic plan to put America first and reorient our economy so that we can manufacture here, they would benefit greatly from lower interest rates so they can finance all of those things. But I can tell you just on a personal, listen, imagine the housing market and what kind of explosion we would have if the mortgage rates came down. Mortgage rates right now are sitting at around 6.87%.
So very high.
It's insanely high compared to what it was for so long during the end of the Obama presidency and during the first years of the Trump presidency. Also, just on a personal level, we had a bunch of damage at our house. We had a water damage. So we're now starting the process of reconstructing and fixing and replacing the carpets and all of that stuff. And, these projects come in, and insurance is paying for some of it, but not even close to what we were hoping. And, they come in and say, okay, well, here's the carpet, here's how much it costs. If you want, you can finance it. And we say, oh, really, what's that look like? 27%.
It's insane.
27%. I said, no, thanks. No, that's okay. We'll figure out another way. It's insane. If you want to get a project done at your house, and you've got to pay that kind of interest rates, imagine how strong our economy would be if the interest rates ticked down just a little bit to give some relief to people trying to finance projects. That's jobs for people.
Absolutely. And when you think about what Washington can do, Washington is actually working in this way. When you have the big, beautiful bill working through the Senate right now, passed by the House, the tax savings are really important. The investments, the business savings are going to be really important for stimulating all that manufacturing you were talking about, Larry. But we have the Federal Reserve working against us.
It's 5:22.
All right, coming up, we have been watching all of the ICE raids across this country, but particularly here in our area, like Loudoun County. We've been seeing how, finally, criminal illegal aliens are being arrested. Well, not everybody is happy about that. So we'll stay with us as we cover this and more. It's 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
5:37 as we're kicking a little butt here on O'Connor and Company this Thursday morning in your nation's capital. Don't be freaked out. Patrice Onwuka is here.
Happy Juneteenth and Friday Eve.
Right, sure. It is sort of a 40 weekend for a lot of people who are getting Juneteenth.
No,
and tomorrow is the longest day of the year. So if you like your outdoor activities, you can play all day doing all the things.
Well,
that
I tell
like
you,
to
it's
do.
weird. Larry, I went to bed early last night and the sun was still out.
Yeah, that's the plight of a morning radio host. You have to close the blinds in the summer when you're going to sleep. That's all right. Coming up at 7:05, Alex Sawyer. She's the legal affairs reporter for the Washington Times. She's got a brand new book out, Lawless Lawfare. 7:35, John Reed, running for lieutenant governor in Virginia. 8:05, Sean Spicer, who testified on Capitol Hill yesterday in the Biden cover-up hearing. Democrats chose not to show. That's because they're part of the cover-up. And at 8:35, KT McFarland. All right, Patrice, let's turn our sights out to Loudoun County. You know, Democrats all across the country have seen elected officials getting into fights and scuffles and get arrested as they try to manhandle federal ICE agents doing their jobs and getting illegal alien criminals off the streets and going after employers who are employing illegal immigrants, doing raids in Southern California. This has all been, and Democrats, they're doing this political street theater where they get involved. They try to impede the officers from doing their duty. They start, tussling with them, and then they get arrested. You had Alex Padilla doing it with Christy Noem out in California. You had this comptroller in New York, Landman, I think his name is, get arrested in New York. In Illinois, they tried to do it at an ICE agent. The ICE facility in Illinois didn't even open the door for these guys because they knew what they were trying to do. So now, Supervisor Julie Briskman in Loudoun County, Virginia, she wants in on the action. She loves doing political stunts. You remember the only reason that we know her name before she ran for office is that she was riding a bicycle near the presidential during the presidential motorcade in Loudoun County, and she flipped the president off. That picture went viral. She turned it into a political career, and now she's your Loudoun County supervisor. There you go. That's what you get when it's all about the resistance. So, Supervisor Julie Briskman, she, her.
Oh, goodness. I thought people would stop that foolishness.
No, she's got the she, her. It's not even in her bio on Twitter. It's actually in her name. Literally, if you look her up on social media, her name is Supervisor Julie E. Briskman, she, her. That's the name.
That speaks to her mental situation capacity, but whatever.
Or her ability to virtue signal to get attention.
That too.
With all of the right funders. And I suspect that her latest stunt is to further her political career and perhaps run for the House of Representatives in Loudoun County. Or maybe something bigger. Loudoun County Supervisor Julie Briskman, she, her, sharply criticized Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. She's going after Mike Chapman. What's Mike Chapman's crime? He's working with federal immigration and customs enforcement officers to make sure that criminals are being apprehended by federal agents if they are in violation of federal law. That's his crime. According to Ms. Briskman, 10 people were detained and arrested at Sterling Immigration Court last week. Briskman alleged that ICE agents confronted 2 more people who were watching. One person was manhandled, she said, outside of the building by plainclothes officers, according to press releases. The officers also pushed away the other person's phone, she wrote. Briskman condemned the ICE operations as lawless and authoritarian and called for Sheriff Mike Chapman to immediately terminate the county's 287G agreement with ICE. So there you go.
Lawless?
Julie Briskman, the bad guys are the cops, according to Julie Briskman.
I've said it many times before. Democrats make martyrs out of misfits. They're the ones who are going after, they're supporting the illegal criminals. And you guys know I'm a legal citizen, a citizen of the United States, naturalized citizen, meaning I'm a legal immigrant to this country. We don't want illegal immigrants here, especially the ones who are committing crimes like rape, molestation, murder, etc. And the fact that she is criminalizing the police and law enforcement speaks to where the left has always been. Don't believe them when they say, oh, we back the blue. They've never backed the blue. And so now you just have another example of them hating on police and law enforcement who are actually carrying out the duties of this country and the responsibilities to ensure that there's public safety. Get criminal illegal aliens off the streets. And Larry, to your earlier point about just the theater, doesn't this look like exactly what Democrats were doing in front of every single federal agency at the start of Doge's work? Standing in front, shouting, trying to break into these federal agencies, all for the viral moment.
It's all about the resistance. Yeah. But she picked an interesting day yesterday to make this statement, June 18th. And I want to thank Loudoun County watchdog Brad Butcher. He's great. And he's a thorn in the side of Julie Briskman. And he pointed out something very significant about yesterday. Yesterday was the anniversary of the tragic death of a Loudoun County resident. Her name was Nabra Hassanin. She was sexually assaulted and beaten to death with a baseball bat.
My goodness. By
an illegal alien in Loudoun County. She died yesterday. And on the anniversary of her horrific, violent death at the hands of an illegal alien, Julie Briskman decided to call the federal law enforcement officers who were enforcing the laws and deporting people like that illegal alien murderer who was allowed to live free and wonderful in Julie Briskman's Loudoun County. She decided to call those law enforcement officers the bad guys, the criminals, the lawless ones. And she's calling on the sheriff, Mike Chapman, who's like the one sane countywide elected official in Loudoun, who's actually been doing a stellar job and has won, his fourth term now, I think, in a row, maybe even 5. She's calling on him to stop doing his job and stop cooperating with federal law enforcement. Loudoun County, we've been telling you for years now, you got to clean this up and fix this. Julie Briskman, your supervisor in Loudoun, she's telling you exactly who she is, and she's telling you exactly whose side she's on. It's about time you told her to take a hike. It's 5:43.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
The Army's been getting a lot of headlines lately, Patrice. You know, what with the whole
they just had a birthday.
Party. So. Yes. And it was wonderful. It was great. It was, and we're happy for the Army. But, you know, it's also the Navy's birthday this year. A little bit later, you know. It did take to see a little bit later after the ground campaigns began. Marines not too far behind as well. The Navy's birthday is in October, the Marines in November. But the Navy got in front of their birthday with a pretty cool announcement yesterday. Listen to the Secretary of the Navy, John Felon, make the big news.
Today, I'm proud to announce we've met our fiscal year 2025 recruiting goal 3 months early. 40,600 future sailors have signed up to serve in our United States Navy. This is a critical time in history. The world is more complex and more contested than it has been in decades. And our ability to respond starts with our greatest asset, our people. This milestone reflects more than numbers. It reflects the drive of our recruiters, the innovation of our team, and the courage of thousands of Americans who step forward to serve.
There you go.
This recruiting milestone...
SecNav making the big announcement. Yes, the Navy has met their recruitment goals 3 months early, so the rest is just gravy. And it just so happens that SecDef, Pete Hegseth, was on Capitol Hill yesterday at some hearings and was asked specifically, so what's going on? Army met its goals early. Navy now has met its goals early. I think the Marines is the only branch that's actually been consistently meeting its goals even through the dark times because the Marines are just something else. Hegseth was asked, what's going on here? And here's his answer.
Well, sir, thank you for the question about recruiting. What changed is a commander-in-chief that America's young people believe in. President Trump was elected in November, inaugurated in January, and at first I called it the Trump bump. But then it became clear that's not enough. This is a tsunami of support amongst young Americans who want to serve under a president who they know has their back, who will fund them properly, who will not use them unnecessarily, and will make sure they are part of deterrence for the country with a focus, first and foremost, on the homeland, then deterring strengths and making sure our allies step up and carry more of the burden. So you've got a historic surge in the Army, the Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, you name it. Americans are responding because the president says a new spirit. And he's right. And you can feel it in the ranks. You go out to formations, you talk to men and women on the border, they believe in what they're doing in securing that southern border. You talk to them across the world, they're enthused about this new administration and its leadership. So it's President Trump, sir.
Leadership, direction, and a focus on the job at hand, not on political nonsense. It's actually a very cool thing. And, you know, I'm surrounded by young officers or soon-to-be officers at the Naval Academy, and we go through the sponsorship program as parents in the area where we sponsor these young men and women before they become officers. So we're around them. But I got to tell you, I've just recently been involved with an organization called Our Community Salutes. What they do is they celebrate all of the high school seniors who have decided not to go to college and not to become officers, but to enlist straight out of high school and become part of the enlisted ranks. And they get a big celebration because, you know, when kids sign to go to a college in high school and get a liberal arts degree, they have a big party for them at their high school. They don't do anything for these young men and women who join the military. So we do. Right. Our Community Salutes does. And so for the last 4 years, I've been involved in those celebrations. And I just did one in May in Alexandria for all of the Alexandria high school students who were joining the military. And the numbers were twice as much as they were last year.
Wow.
There's a real thing happening there, Patrice. I'm excited to bring your young men into the military when they're ready.
Well, I'll tell you, my youngest, my rising kindergartner said at his promotion last Friday, I want to be a soldier. That is what every kid was asked what they want to be. And these are 6-year-olds. And he said, I want to be a soldier. So we're going to take it seriously that he wants to join the military. I also have to think that part of this, Larry, is just not just the young people who want to be under President Trump as commander-in-chief, but their parents, those who've served previously, who now also trust in the commander-in-chief, who are telling their kids, now is the time to get back in. Whereas under Biden, a lot of those grandfathers, fathers, grandmothers, they were saying, no, I wouldn't want you to serve under this commander-in-chief. So I've got to believe it's a generational impact that President Trump is having.
Yep, well spotted. I think you're right. You talk to a lot of people who had many generations of their family in the military, and they've been calling into the show. They've been calling into WMAL for years saying, not this Army, not this Navy. I'm recommending to my child or my grandchild not to do it, and now that has changed. Let's keep that momentum going.
Absolutely.
Let's keep the spirit going with our military. They deserve no less. It's 5:52.